Welcome back to Moto Skills Factory, and today we got an exciting topic, and we're going to talk about electronics. It is a controversial topic, and I want to get Sasha's opinion. Are electronics and these intelligent motorcycles that follow the car in front of you, tell you when there's somebody in your blind spot, handle the off-road traction control for you, are they making riders dumber and worse at riding?
I would like to say yes, but nah, it depends. In our trainings here, we can see that some riders feel safer because they have all these things, these electronics to help them, and some riders they have no clue how to use them or what to expect. To categorize this is basically what I've seen is to put them into three rider groups. Number one, the commuter. Number two, the recreational rider. And number three, the passionate rider. I would say the commuter, absolutely yes. They need them. They need those electronics. They want them, and they appreciate them. The recreational rider some would like them, some appreciate them, some maybe not so much, and some have a question mark. Why? Then the passionate rider, what I've seen is they couldn't care less, and they would rather save that money and spend it on some other things. So these are the three categories that I would say are existing right now, and depends on in what category you belong to currently. I mean, it can change. You might have a different opinion about electronics.
Yeah, so let's talk about the commuter for a minute. The person who's just trying to get to their job, just trying to get home, and both of us, I believe, commute on two wheels. And my mindset when I'm commuting is very different than when I'm recreational riding. And what are the purpose of these electronics, and why would the commuter want and possibly need these things?
I mean, in the morning, you just got up. Maybe you're still a little bit tired. On the way to work, you want to have that ABS. You want to have that corner ABS. After a long day of work, you're already stressed out. You just want to get home. Maybe there is some issue still on your mind that happened during the day that you still haven't figured it out yet. So you want to have these electronics to help you out to get home safely, right? Or to get to work safely. So in these scenarios, I think it makes absolute sense. In Taiwan's traffic is, best, right? I have my ABS on then. If it's just, I know I'm riding not for fun, but to get somewhere, I have my ABS on. Right, I have my traction control on if my bike has traction control. Maybe not the highest level, but I have it on, right? Why not? Number one, I've paid for it. It's a lot of money. It keeps me safe, and my purpose of riding is a little bit different.
Yeah, so now let's talk about the recreational rider. So this is the type of person who would ride on the weekends. They have a regular 9 to 5 job, and they want to enjoy their time on the weekends, off-road at different riding levels, maybe easy, maybe some more technical, challenging stuff. What would you say that they need in the electronics department?
I mean, you can differentiate between the settings, Enduro setting, Enduro Pro setting. You can adjust all these things, right? And then the specific ones where you basically just customize every single bit according to your own needs. I would say the first one where you just switch between road mode and off-road mode. These are the ones that just want to have a good time. They want to go out for a ride to relax. They don't want to crash, and they probably bought that bike also because it has all these electronics, so they don't have to worry so much. Those riders usually, like you said already, they don't usually go super hardcore. At least intentionally. To them, off-road ABS, traction control, it can be beneficial because it helps them to stay out of dangerous situations, or can prevent it in dangerous situations. Also, the latter part would be once those settings aren't enough for you anymore, and you start to play with every single individual setting, like for example ABS, engine braking, traction control, all these things are more interesting to you. That's when you also kind of realize you slowly moving away from that recreational rider and more towards that passionate rider. So that would be the third category.
Yeah, so the passionate rider is going to be riding a lot. Maybe every weekend, maybe they're going to take long tours. Sasha does tours in Spain. They ride day after day after day, right? And they're getting to this level where they have quite a lot of skill. And what sort of electronics would you suggest for that type of person who has more skill?
The thing that we see here is the more skills you have, the less you rely on these electronics. And on top of that, what could happen is you actually start to feel annoyed by them. You have to switch them off in certain models. Every single time you stop, you switch off the engine, you have to reset your bike. Some have that memory function, yes. But yeah, it's the ones that really are passionate about riding might not be against electronics. They might use electronics, but what I definitely can say is they use electronics very, very little to actually not at all.
Yeah, so also in that category of passionate rider are the adventure travelers, the people who are going around the world. And one of the things I keep seeing in the comments, and one of the big reasons why people are buying the Tenere 700 is they're concerned about the reliability of these electronics. Once you get away from the beaten path, once you get out, maybe you're in India, maybe you're in Africa, maybe you're in one of these places that doesn't have a Ducati dealership around every corner. And if you buy that multistrada, and something breaks on it, you're going to need a module. You're going to need something. When you change something, you need to then program it from the dealer, right? And how much of this is a concern for us as off-road riders concerned with reliability?
Yeah. Again, the spectrum is a little bit wider. Without trying to offend anyone, some GS riders, they buy a GS completely kitted out to tackle the urban jungle to get to their destiny at Starbucks. Burn! 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 No hate comments, please. But no, but it's a lot of people, they feel safer and more at ease by knowing that their bike has all these electronics that could potentially save them, and I respect that. But mud, dust, water, all of these things can potentially affect wires, right? So the less wires you have in your bike, I don't know. To me, the better it is, But again, it depends. For some people, 150-kilometer tour, that's like going hardcore, right? To some other people, that's just the salad, in their 4-course meal, right? So it is different, So, but what we can say is what we've seen is the more things your bike has, the more things can break.
Before you had a KTM 890 Adventure, and we compared that to the Tenere 700, and you also had the rally pack or whatever, where you could scroll between all kinds of different levels of traction control and then throttle response and things of that nature. And then the Tenere basically doesn't have anything, it has ABS. Do you miss the electronics that you had on the 890?
No. I mean, okay. To be fair, the Tenere has a very, very smooth power delivery. It's not as powerful as the KTM, but it doesn't really need traction control. In my opinion, I think that rally mode, where you can switch on the fly between 1 and 9 traction control setting, right? I think that's really good. I really like that. You can, while you ride, you can adjust up or down, more or less traction control, just how much you need it according to that current situation. However, in my case, what I found out is I maybe used it 5 times a year, max, 3 times a year, right? Most of the time I had it in one setting, which was, one, maybe two or three, mostly one. And I just left it there, right? And this is the thing, the more your skill sets go up, the more it is easy to adjust yourself than to adjust yourself and the bike. Before you had the bike and yourself, and you had to make this work together. Now you have the bike, you, and the electronics. So it's a triangle now, right? If you take a bike like the Africa Twin, and you have, I don't know, 7 settings of traction control. You have, I don't know, 5 settings of engine control. You have another 5 settings of throttle control. All of these things, it's 7 times 5 times 5, then off-road ABS or F-rate ABS off times 2, and that number you add, let's say 30, 40 kilometers to test, you end up with like 6, 7, 8,000 kilometers, right? Just to test every single possibility and adjustment setting, right? There's no way that anyone can remember which setting is the best, right? So in the end, what happens is either you just leave it in off-road setting, or you find one setting with a certain level of traction control and engine braking and whatever, right? Throttle control, and you just leave it there, because most of the time what we see when we go on tours, most people adjust it only when they get stuck. When they have to get off the bike and they get stuck and the bike doesn't move, now I adjust some of the settings. But during the ride or constantly, and like I have to take a break because I want to, I can't remember when we actually encountered a situation like this, right? To each their own, but needing electronics and wanting electronics, it's like 2 different things.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who are just going to click it into one of those preset things, probably most people, and then not play around with it after that. And then sometimes these bikes, they'll reset themselves, they'll turn back on the ABS, and that's a safety feature for the road. But is that a safety feature off-road? Could that actually cause an accident?
There are also there are different videos out there, right? And there are people who say, off-road ABS, ABS using while being off-road, it's okay as well. I myself always switch it off, right? Off-road ABS is still okay. The ones on the KTMs are really, really good, right? On the 790 ADV R, you could actually still switch off the ABS completely. On the 890s, not the new one, even the first 890 model, you can't. It's either ABS on or off-road ABS. Only 2 options. The 790R, you had 3 options, right? So for me, it's always at least off-road ABS, right? And again, we're going into that spectrum where we move from a commuter or a recreational rider into a passionate rider, and a passionate rider is not only passionate about the bike but also about himself or herself, right? So it feels good if you are in full control. It's good if you spend tons of money on the bike and the bike will make the ride smoother. That feels good because you spend good money. But if you move into that passionate rider spectrum, right? What we usually see is you feel good because you did it, right? You feel good about yourself because your skills got yourself out of that situation or through that situation, or because of that you enjoyed that situation even more, and that sense of accomplishment is just more present.
And one of my concerns is basically that people are overbuying on bikes, and we're seeing that sort of come down a little bit, where the BMW R1200 GS, it made the segment really, really popular, and everybody thought that they needed a 1,000 or 1,200 cc big adventure bike, and all the money was going into that. And this is something that we saw also with sport bikes when the BMW S1000 RR came out. All the money started going into these 1,000 cc bikes, the mid-size category, the 600s and 700s, just languished. And that's what happened for a while in adventure bikes. And then post 2020 with the Tenere 700, we saw this renaissance of mid-size bikes. And I think a lot of people, especially if you like to go off-road, a lot of people, that's all they need. Because you mentioned that the Tenere has a little bit less horsepower, quite a lot less horsepower than the 890 Adventure. And because of that, you don't miss not having traction control, because it's tractable engine. It just grabs, it just finds that traction, and it just keeps going. And sure, there's a lot of people who would love to have a 1200 blasting down the highway and do those long distance stuff, and they just ride better long distance. However, there's also a lot of people that an 800 or a 700 is plenty of bike. And if we just bring those CCs back, we don't need so much electronics. We don't need so much intervention to save us. Because really, in my opinion, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe like 70 to 80 horsepower is plenty of power in an adventure bike in an off-road scenario.
Absolutely, but it's always that question: what do you want and what do you need? It's always like this, right? My favorite example is always the 1290 ADV R, 160 horsepower. Do you need this? No. Do you want it? Yes. Is it fun? Yes. Yeah. If you can control it, and the engine is, to me, I love that engine. It's really linear, right? It's a lot of fun if you have the space, if you have open trails, if you on a beach, whatever, and you have 160 horsepower that moves that bike, right? You are moving the earth, right? It is fun, but you don't need it, right? And this is the thing, and I can understand, when we move back, the recreational, the commuter, they just need a bike. That's it, right? A Honda Cup is sufficient, right? But most of us, we want to ride motorcycles because we want to experience something more. And that's why there's so many different opinions out there, which are all legit, right? They're all good. And but sometimes we get carried away. And it's, to me, about 100 horsepower or something like this is fine. But going back to what you said about the GS, the funny thing about the GS that we've seen over all these years is our riders, when they praise the GS, it's not necessarily because of all the electronics. It's because of the mechanics. It's because of the design of the bike, the boxer engine, the tail lever, front fork, front suspension and stuff, right? Because of the drive shaft, right? Because of these things. And these are not 100% electronics, right? They need some electronics, but it's not, all electronics. So that makes the GS so popular, right? And then they go into, okay, they have good electronics and all these things. We had experiences where instructors said, off-road, leave the ABS on, everything is fine. What happened is the ECU opened up the brakes, and the rider went down a slope into a riverbed, had to replace the whole front. Who's at fault now? That's always a thing, and to everyone, adventure is just a little bit different, right? Some, an hour of riding, 2 hours of riding is adventure enough, right? Some people have to at least, go through 3-4 countries to have a feeling of an adventure, right? But I think the bottom line is, the less you have to worry about, no matter if it's, for example, your skills or your bike, the more adventure you can enjoy, right? And that enjoyment, I think, is the biggest part. And everything is always good until it doesn't work anymore. So all the electronics are always good, and no one will say anything bad about them until their own bike breaks down. And I don't wish anything bad about to anyone here. And if you've been riding such kind of bike and you had never problems with it, I'm happy for you. I'm rooting for you. But we've seen, situations where, like I just said, if you have something on your bike, it can break. And the more you have on your bike, the more can break, right? So for people who like to go on longer travels, they want to have a bigger bike. So obviously want to have 1,000 cc or more, because the bike is just bigger, the seat is bigger, right? It's more comfortable, right? So it all makes sense. And these bikes need more horsepower. How to tame these horsepower and all everything, than electronics. So it makes sense, But I'm just worried that in 3-4 years we're gonna have mandatory seatbelts, right? And Honda is developing, or no, the Honda Goldwing already has airbags, right? And I think they're developing airbags for other models as well, which is okay. They have these self-balancing bikes now in R&D right now. Going off-road riding with a very, very stable bike that stabilizes itself. Would that be a bike for you?
No, I don't think so. It's up to you whether you want to travel around the world on the latest and greatest electronics equipped multistrada. Let us know in the comments what you think. We will keep coming at you with these videos on technology and riding how-tos, and educate you on adventure riding. And join us again next time on Moto Skills Factory.